Do you find it challenging to paddle in a straight line on a paddleboard and can't seem to figure out why? It seems like you're doing everything correctly, but still, you're finding yourself drifting to one side. Well, today I'm going to help you fix this problem with a few simple tips. And the last one, not many people know about, but it'll make a huge difference. So let's get started.
All right, so jumping right into it, the first tip I have for you to help you start paddling much straighter is actually making sure you have your paddle vertical in the water as you're paddling along. A common mistake for many beginner paddlers is as they're paddling, they actually have their shaft and their paddle at an angle in the water. So as they're paddling along, they're actually pushing themselves to the left or to the right versus pulling themselves forward in the water. So in order to fix this problem, we have to make sure we have our paddle vertical in the water. And in order to do this, we do have to adjust our form on the paddleboard as well. Now I'm not going to go fully in depth in terms of proper paddle form on the paddleboard, as I do have another video that goes more in depth into this correct paddle form. So be sure to go check out that video if you want to learn more about that as well. But simply put, you want to make sure you're standing with relaxed legs, your chest is still upright and forward, your hips are going to shift a little bit to the right if you're paddling on your left hand side, your bottom arm is straight, your top arm is kind of reaching over your head. Now it's not obviously reaching directly over your head, but rather in front of you. But it still has that same position of reaching over across, allowing you to put your paddle more vertical in the water. So as I reach forward in my paddle stroke, I'm able to bury that blade vertically in the water as I bring it back to my feet versus at an angle. So once again, relaxed legs, chest up, bottom arm straight, top arm is reaching over and across, bring that blade up in vertical, bury the blade, and bring it back to your feet again and exit the water. Now the second step or tip actually plays hand in hand with the first one. So as we're paddling along with the vertical paddle, we also want to focus on keeping that paddle right alongside our paddle board as we're paddling along. Many times people like to paddle with their paddle far away from the paddle board. So once again, as they're paddling along, they're pushing or pulling themselves to the right side or to the left hand side as well. So in order to help you paddle straighter, you're gonna make sure you're focused on keeping that paddle right alongside your paddle board. Now the reason for this is you actually want to imagine an imaginary line going down the center of your paddle board. In reality, if you could paddle directly on this line every single paddle stroke, you'd be paddling straight forward every single time. Now obviously, since we can't paddle directly on that center line because of our paddle board, we still want to stay as close to that line as possible, which is why it's so important to keep your paddle right next to your paddle board as you're paddling along. Allows you to stay closer to that center line, allows you to stay paddle straighter with each paddle stroke. Now hopefully that imagery in your head kind of helps you understand the concept of this paddle stroke and why it's so important to keep your paddle vertical and also as close as you can to your paddle board in order to help you paddle much straighter along with each paddle stroke that you're making. Now for this last tip, many people don't realize they're doing it incorrectly and don't realize the negative impact it has on their forward paddle stroke. Many people as they're paddling along will put a lot more weight and a lot more pressure on that paddle side foot. So for example, if I'm paddling on my left hand side, a lot of people tend to put a lot of weight and a lot of pressure on the left hand foot, causing your board to actually lift the left hand side. And with the angle of your paddle board, with each paddle stroke you're doing, you're actually causing yourself to turn slowly to the right with each paddle stroke as you put more weight on your left hand foot. The same thing applies to the right hand side. If I'm paddling my right hand side and I have too much weight on my right hand foot, my board's going to lift to the right hand side. With the angle of the board, it's actually causing me to slowly turn to the left with each paddle stroke that I'm making as well. So in order to fix this problem, we simply want to make sure we're distributing our weight across both feet. Make sure we keep our paddle board level in the water. So if I'm paddling my right hand side, I want to apply a little bit more weight to my left hand foot to make sure I'm keeping my paddle board level and flat on the water, allowing me to paddle much straighter along with each paddle stroke once again. So I encourage you guys in your next paddle to apply these 3 simple tips, and I guarantee you'll see dramatic improvements with how straight you paddle. As always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out the channel for more content like this. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Hasta luego, amigos.